Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the podcast. And today, I'm going to give my review of AEW's Dynamite. Starting off tonight, we have MJF and Adam Page face to face. A lot of hostility for the past couple of weeks between MJF and Adam Page. Both guys are in the ring with a microphone. MJF talks about his first ever Casino Battle Royal match. MJF then mocks Page. MJF then talks about his accolades and what he's done in AEW. Page then mocks MJF. MJF then mocks the audience. MJF then mocks Christopher Daniels. This obviously pisses Page off. Page then praises Christopher Daniels. Page then calls MJF selfish. Page then talks about his accolades and what he's done in AEW. MJF says that he is better than Adam Page. MJF then spits in Page's face. Both guys go to attack each other. Page then fights the AEW staff. Christopher Daniels is here. Danielson ends up stopping Adam Page. Some interesting stuff there from Adam Page and MJF. Moving on from that, we go into our first official match of Dynamite. It is the Ops taking on the Patriarchy. I thought it was a good match. Back and forth matchup between the Ops and the Patriarchy, with the Ops keeping the pace of the match. Hook then hits multiple T-bone suplexes in the middle of the ring. And then Hook applies a red rum on Nick Wayne. Referee sounds for the bell, and your winners of the match are the Ops. Hats off to the Ops for getting the win in this matchup. After that, it was announced that it will, in fact, be at Revolution. It will be MJF taking on Adam Page. Definitely a match I'm definitely interested in seeing. Moving on from that, we got a street fight. It is Powerhouse Hobbs taking on Big Bill. I thought it was a good match, man. Back and forth matchup between Hobbs and Bill, with Hobbs keeping the pace of the match. Hobbs then hits Bill with a chair shot. Bill then gets up, hits Hobbs with a wrench. Bill then hits a choke slam on Powerhouse Hobbs onto the steel steps. Hobbs then gets up, hits Bill with a trash can. Brian Keith is here. Hobbs then throws Keith through a table in the corner. Powerhouse Hobbs and Big Bill both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Hobbs throwing Bill off the stage onto a barbed wire table. He couldn't stand up for the 10 count, and your winner of the match is Powerhouse Hobbs. Hats off to Powerhouse Hobbs for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we have Toni Storm, or should I say Timeless Toni Storm. She comes out to the ring, grabs a microphone. Toni Storm talks about beating Mariah May at AEW's Grand Slam in Australia. Toni then talks about winning the title. She also mocks Mariah May. And then Toni Storm puts the women's locker room on notice, saying that she is not hard to find and that all challengers pretty much are accepted. Definitely interesting stuff there from Toni Storm. And honestly, I look forward to who's going to be the next person to challenge Toni Storm for the AEW Women's title. Moving on from that, we have Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley comes out to the ring. Moxley pretty much mocks Adam Copeland. Moxley talks about Revolution. Jay White is here. Pac is here as well. Cope's music hits. He ends up showing up, attacking Moxley from behind. Cope then attacks the Death Riders. Cope says that AEW is his. And then Cope mocks Jon Moxley, pretty much leading up to their matchup for the AEW World Championship at Revolution. Moving on from that, we go to our next match of the night. It is Megan Bayne taking on Chris Statlander. I thought it was a good match, man. Back and forth matchup between Megan Bayne and Chris Statlander, with Chris Statlander trying to keep the pace of the match. Statlander hits a standing moonsault on Bayne in the middle of the ring, but Bayne gets up, hits a devastating spear on Chris Statlander. Penelope Ford comes out to the ring. She attacks Chris Statlander, which allowed Bayne to hit the finish, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Megan Bayne. After the match, Penelope Ford then attacks Chris Statlander. Thunder Rosa comes out to the ring to save Chris Statlander. Moving on from that, we have a Ricochet segment. Ricochet comes out to the ring wearing Prince Nana's robe, grabs a microphone. Ricochet talks about Swerve. He also mocks Swerve. Ricochet then wants AEW Gold. After that, he is interrupted by Prince Nana. Nana comes out to the ring, grabs a microphone, and says, Nana says he wants his robe back. That Ricochet is not worthy to wear the robe. Nana then talks about his accolades and what he's done in professional wrestling. But then Ricochet pretty much mocks Prince Nana. It looks like there's some unfinished business there between Ricochet and Swerve Strickland. Moving on from that, we go to our next match of the night. It's the main event of AEW Dynamite. It is Orange Cassidy taking on Roderick Strong, where the winner of this matchup will go on to face Takeshita, and the winner of that match will face Kenny Omega at Revolution. I thought it was a good match, man. Back and forth matchup between Orange Cassidy and Roderick Strong, with Orange Cassidy keeping the pace of the match. Orange hits a beach break in the middle of the ring on Strong. Strong then hits an end of Heartache on Orange Cassidy. Strong then quickly applies a Texas Cloverleaf on Orange Cassidy, but the hold is broken. Orange then hits a Stun Dog Millionaire in the middle of the ring, followed up by an Orange Punch on Roderick Strong. Pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Orange Cassidy. After the match, the Don Callis family come out to the ring to attack Orange Cassidy, and Kenny Omega comes out to save Orange Cassidy from the Don Callis family. A couple things I want to talk about, man, when it pertains to AEW Dynamite before I get the hell up out of here. Number one, I can honestly say, man, these past couple Dynamite shows that I've been watching, I'm not going to put the cart before the horse here, but I will say that the shows are picking up pace. Obviously, the main vocal point last night, in my honest opinion, or from Dynamite, would have to be Adam Page and MJF. To me, to be honest with y'all, I feel like this Adam Page MJF rivalry that they're trying to brew here could be the feud that could possibly save AEW. These two guys are household names for AEW. Both original guys for AEW. They've been there since day one. This is something that AEW needs. And AEW desperately needs a shot in the arm. Desperately needs a shot in the arm. Because right now, there's a lot of fans, a lot of critics, and myself included, that have been crucial on AEW. And there are some people out there that are saying, oh, give AEW a chance. The problem that I think a lot of people are having is the fact that we keep giving AEW chances and, time after time, they're failing. And Tony Khan seems to be taking his gas off the foot off the gas pedal, pushing the narrative for AEW to be the alternative when we're not getting that with AEW. For a prime example, I didn't cover the Australia show, and the reason why I didn't do that because I knew that show was going to be a disaster. Yes, I'm happy with the outcome of Tony Storm, but a lot of things happened that night at Grand Slam that didn't go off well. Hence Buddy Matthews. He obviously, expressed his grievances towards Grand Slam. He almost pretty much broke his ankle, just stepping into the ring that night to face Okada. He was honestly, not happy with the ring setup. I think it was a 16 by 16 ring. Usually I believe it's 20 by 20. And he had issues with the ring itself, the ramp to walk from the entrance down to the ring. He had a lot of discrepancies towards the Grand Slam event. And a lot of people did. I mean, from ticket sales to, people, Tony Khan giving people 2-for-1 tickets. Grand Slam was a disaster. And there really wasn't a lot of build towards Grand Slam. But with that being said, like I said, man, I think Dynamite the past couple weeks, like I said, I'm not trying to put the cart before the horse, but they're picking up small steam, if you will. I think they're heading in a decent direction if they keep going the way that they're going and building storylines. I think Revolution coming up March 9th, I think is going to be an underrated card. I think we have Kenny Omega on that card where he will face most likely either Takeshita or Orange Cassidy. We have an AEW title matchup between Jon Moxley taking on Adam Copeland for the AEW title. Most likely we should possibly see Tony Storm a part of that card as well as Mercedes Moné. There's a lot of things that are starting to build towards Revolution, which I'm all for that, and obviously Adam Page versus MJF. To me, like I mentioned earlier, man, this is the feud I think that's going to save AEW. I'm not saying that this feud is going to be the complete turnaround for AEW and point them in a better direction, but I do believe it's a start. These guys are two household names for AEW. They both have great mic skills. They're going to tell one hell of a story leading up to Revolution, and rightfully so. And this is something that AEW desperately needs to get back to get the fans invested in the product. Because MJF, he's great on the mic. He's great on the microphone. He's a great wrestler, as well as Adam Page. Both these guys have a story. And hopefully, we get some more build-up leading up to this matchup at Revolution. We got a couple weeks leading up to Revolution, March 9th. Hopefully, they can start building this story up into something incredible, man. And we get the final product of the match happening at Revolution. The other thing I want to talk about too, man, is Megan Bayne. Megan Bayne, she just came on the scene for AEW as of late. She's done a hell of a job. The matchup she had with Chris Statlander on Dynamite, I thought it was a really good matchup. I don't know the correlation that she has with Penelope Ford, but they're building up Megan Bayne to be a powerhouse within AEW, which I'm all for it. She has the look. She's a powerhouse. She can be a dominant force within that women's locker room in AEW. With that being said, I feel the same way about Chris Statlander. I think Statlander is severely underrated. I think that she can also make a run towards the AEW Women's Championship. I'm all for that as well, but it looks like Megan Bayne, Tony Khan and AEW are really pushing Megan Bayne to the moon. And who knows? I mean, the biggest question mark, honestly, is, for both Mercedes Moné and, Toni Storm, who's going to be next to challenge them for their respected titles, whether it's a TBS title or the AEW Women's Championship. Is Megan Bayne going to be in that conversation? Is Harley Cameron going to get her rematch against Mercedes Moné for the TBS title? I know that, Moné has a challenger for the TBS title, which is Watanabe, I believe, from Japan. She's a huge star over in Japan. She's going to come over and challenge Moné for the TBS title. Again, this also could be a rematch that could possibly happen at Revolution. But I wouldn't shy away from Harley Cameron. I think Harley Cameron is starting to come into her own. She's really building off her own character. And to be honest with you, I think she did a decent job against Moné at Grand Slam. So there could possibly be a rematch there between Cameron and Moné at Revolution, which I'm not against that. For Toni Storm, I don't know. I don't know if people are really going to be inclined to see a rematch between May and Toni Storm. I think that storyline between those two are done. So you got to ask yourself the question, who is going to be next to possibly challenge Toni Storm for that AEW Women's Championship? What I don't want to see is Mercedes Moné challenge Toni Storm for that women's title, because right now I believe Moné is 14-0. Toni Storm just got the AEW Women's Championship back. She's back to timeless Toni Storm. I think it would do more harm than good for Toni Storm to lose that belt right now, with her finally making a resurgence back as timeless Toni Storm. But then you also look at other women that are signed with AEW or signed with Ring of Honor. Athena. I mentioned this about Athena a while back ago, that, obviously All In's coming down the pike here in July. I believe she's from Texas, if I'm not mistaken. Would we slot Athena into the main roster on AEW and have her challenge possibly Toni Storm or Mercedes Moné? Because I'm going to be honest, I genuinely believe that Athena is wasting her talent away over in Ring of Honor. And I made that abundantly clear. Ring of Honor is a dead product, man. The product is going nowhere fast right now. I know they're trying to, get a TV deal for Ring of Honor, but clearly that hasn't happened yet. There's been no inkling that right now that they're, in talks with another TV program to put Ring of Honor on television. And right now the product, in my honest opinion, really doesn't grant them a TV deal, with all due respect to the roster that's on a Ring of Honor. Athena, whether it's Moné or Toni Storm, I'm all for either one of those matchups. I think Athena versus Toni Storm, to me, in my honest opinion, is more appealing to me than it would be for Athena versus Mercedes Moné. Might be a hot take for a lot of people, but Athena versus Toni Storm would be fantastic. Both those girls will tear the house down. The reason why I'm not saying Moné is because, to me, Moné's, she's tricky, man. Obviously, they're pushing a narrative of her being undefeated. And right now, she's really not putting over the younger talent right now. She's not putting any talent over, really. That's a problem. That could be a huge problem with other women on the roster right now for AEW, or if Ring of Honor happens to dabble into AEW's business. That could be a huge problem when it pertains to Mercedes Moné, because Moné is not, it seems as if Moné is not trying to put talent over. And that's kind of been the stigma here as of late when it pertains to Mercedes Moné. So it's going to be tricky, man. Watanabe coming in and challenging Moné, I think it's going to be a great match. Do I think that Moné is going to put her over? No, I don't. And again, that's going to ultimately cause a problem for Mercedes Moné, because eventually she has to drop that belt. And right now she has a lot of titles. I believe she has the Rev Pro Women's Championship. She has the New Japan Strong Women's Championship. She has the AEW TBS title as well. She has multiple championships that she's carrying right now. So eventually she's going to have to lose one of those belts. What title that may be, I have no idea. But when it pertains to the TBS title, it's tricky, man. It really is, because Moné doesn't look like she wants to put other talent over, and she wants to push this narrative that, she's the top dog in AEW and she's undefeated. She's 14-0, I believe. So that's tricky when it comes to booking a matchup against Mercedes Moné. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if they put her on the Revolution card. Revolution should be stacked. Absolutely. We already got Adam Page and MJF announced for that card. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's something that needs to happen for AEW. Other things I want to talk about with AEW is some free agents. There has been a lot of commotion as of late as far as free agents going over to AEW. And a lot of people are wondering, with the recent releases from WWE, could we possibly see some of those names that were released from WWE come over to AEW? That's still yet to be seen. But what I do know is that I know AEW was in talks with Speedball Mike Bailey, former TNA talent. I think he's having some visa issues right now, but it seems as if that he is AEW bound. But currently right now, it looks like he's having some visa issues, which is pretty much not allowing him to come over to AEW currently right now. And it looks like AEW and Speedball Mike Bailey are trying to figure that all out with the visa issue. The other free agent that's out there that's been circling around is Josh Alexander. Now, Josh Alexander, former TNA talent, former TNA World Champion. I believe he was a former TNA Tag Team Champion, if I'm not mistaken, with the North when he used to team up with Ethan Page. I think he was also X Division Champion as well, if I'm not mistaken. He's a great talent, and he's a great former champion, and he made a great name for himself over in TNA. Well, he is testing free agency, and it seems as if that he is AEW bound. According to a lot of people, it looks like as if he's on his way over to AEW. Now, there was also rumors and speculation that he's also not AEW bound, and that he wants to test, free agency. He's also in talks with WWE. So, when it pertains to Josh Alexander, I don't know exactly where he's going, because we're getting two different sides of the story here, where he wants to, go over and check out stuff at WWE, but he also wants to go check out stuff with AEW. I believe his agent is Matt Bloom. He's also, representing a lot of other wrestlers right now, especially in AEW, like the Young Bucks. So again, this could be something where he could be AEW bound. We just don't have a definitive answer yet, whether he's going to be there or not. I know some people were pissed that he might be going to AEW. I'm not against it. I think if Josh Alexander was to come over to AEW, there's a lot of reasons why. One, the schedule. Number one. The schedule, I think, is a lot less, than WWE. Number one. Number two, he wants to, I know he has said in interviews that he wants to work the G1 Climax, which is Japan's biggest tournament. Well, if he comes over to AEW, he's allowed to do that. He's allowed to work lesser dates. He's also allowed to work over in New Japan due to the relationship that AEW has with New Japan currently right now. So there's also that option. So a lesser schedule, the availability to actually go over to Japan and compete in the G1 Climax, all that can come to fruition if he signs with AEW. Now, do I think he's going to sign with New Japan? I don't know. The issue with going over to New Japan is that they put you on these excursions in Japan where you're gone from home for 6 to 8 months to a year, and that could be an issue for a lot of people, especially people that have families. So it could be something where, yes, he wants to compete in Japan, and compete in the G1 Climax, but kind of having the best of both worlds is actually signing a contract with AEW where he has the availability to work a lesser schedule and have the availability to actually work the G1 Climax, being a part of the AEW roster. He's also mentioned that there's people in WWE that he wants to have matches with as well as AEW. So, when you really look at it, man, you're really splitting hairs from WWE to AEW. Now, a lot of people wanted him to go to WWE, preferably NXT, to, reunite himself with Ethan Page and reform the North once again in NXT. But who knows if that's going to happen. And my thing is, too, is that obviously everybody knows what's going on right now with WWE and TNA. It could have been great for Alexander with him still being in TNA and, them having that crossover events. They just had Omofemi, the current, I believe, NXT World Champion, go over to TNA, just the other night. And I guess pretty much, challenge Moose. And Moose was on NXT on Tuesday night. So, obviously shit is in the works here between TNA and NXT. And I think it's working out great for both parties involved. I really do. And I think it's something that's going to benefit both WWE and TNA for a long time to come. And rightfully so. TNA has a really good roster. You got the Hardy Boys showing up, I believe, next week. Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy showing up next week on NXT. It's a big deal, man. It's a big, big deal. We have not seen Jeff Hardy or Matt Hardy a part of WWE in quite a while. So to see them on NXT, it's great. It's awesome. So, sky's the limit right now. I mean, I think, but when it pertains to AEW, even with this feud going on with Adam Page and MJF, it's not a complete turnover of the leaf right now for AEW. But it's a slow start. It's something to get the fans invested in the product a little bit, because obviously there's fans that are invested in Adam Page and MJF. And again, this could be something that could possibly save AEW and get fans invested back in the product, seeing these two guys feud and have one hell of a matchup possibly at Revolution. I'm all for it. I think Revolution is going to be a great card. The way it's starting to stack up, I think it's going to be a really good card for Revolution. It was also announced, too, this is another thing I wanted to bring attention to you guys, if you guys have not learned yet, Double or Nothing. I believe it's May 25th, if I'm not mistaken. Usually 9 times out of 10, Double or Nothing happens in Las Vegas. That's no longer the case. Tony Khan and AEW are now moving Double or Nothing, I believe May 25th, to Arizona. So Double or Nothing this year will be in Phoenix, I believe in Phoenix, or somewhere in Arizona this year. It's a big deal. It's a huge deal. And this is something that where a lot of fans have been saying this for quite a while now, that they want the AEW pay-per-views to move. We don't always want to see Double or Nothing in Vegas. We don't always want to see... They probably don't even want to see All In every year in Wembley. That's why I credit this year we're getting All In Texas. So moving the pay-per-views also gets a lot more eyeballs on the product because more fans in the States can actually go to these pay-per-views where they didn't have the opportunity before. Not everybody can go to Vegas. Not everybody can go to Wembley. So, having All In Texas and now having Double or Nothing in Arizona, it's a big deal. And this is something where AEW should have been doing this for a while now with moving these pay-per-views, even though the name might be Double or Nothing, to move these pay-per-views in different other locations. For example, if you're going to stick with the Double or Nothing, mantra around it, with it being like kind of casino base, well, there's also, you have Las Vegas, but you also have Atlantic City. You know what I mean? So you can have Double or Nothing possibly in Atlantic City, or at the Prudential Center in Jersey or something like that, where, you still have that mantra around the name, knowing that it, you can have it in Atlantic City. There's casinos in Atlantic City. There's casinos in Las Vegas. There's pretty much casinos everywhere, but they're predominantly known with casinos being in Las Vegas and Atlantic City. So, again, it's something where you can still keep the name and still have the mantra behind it, the stigma behind it, but you don't have to keep that pay-per-view necessarily in Las Vegas. And I'm happy that they're finally moving it to Arizona. Same thing with Full Gear and All Out and All In. We don't have to have All Out every single time in Chicago. And Chicago, unfortunately, is, I wouldn't say a hotbed for AEW, but it's one of those, places that, a lot of fans still have their grievances over AEW and Tony Khan ever since they've released CM Punk. CM Punk is Chicago. That is their guy. And ever since he got fired from AEW, there's a lot of fans still that, are in Chicago. They're not too happy on the fact that they had to fire, AEW had to fire CM Punk. So that also might be something where they might have to entertain and possibly moving All Out away from Chicago. Chicago might not be a hotbed for AEW anymore. They might have to move it somewhere else. And I think it's a great idea, man. I think, moving it to other states for these pay-per-views, I think, AEW going to smaller venues for their Dynamite and Collision episodes, I think it's great because it gives them more opportunity to have more fans involved in the show. Fan noise is great. They're able to almost pretty much close to selling out of these smaller arenas. And they had a trial run with the Hammerstein Ballroom, and it worked out very well for AEW. So I think it's something where, they don't need to book these really big arenas for these Dynamite shows. If you want to do it for pay-per-views, then by all means, go ahead. But for a regular Dynamite or Collision, it's probably a better choice to stick with the smaller venues because you can actually fill those smaller venues. Because right now they can't do that in these arenas that they were going at last year. And a lot of the arenas that they were going to were like college arenas. Like Temple or, a lot of, college campuses around, the country, whether it was like somewhere in Utah or, Pennsylvania, like Temple University. Like, I think even Full Gear is also like going to be at or at least one of the pay-per-views are going over to Temple. So, I mean, obviously they were doing the college circuit for the longest time, and obviously that didn't pan out because they couldn't fill those arenas. So now they're going to smaller venues and music halls and stuff like that to produce their AEW shows, whether it be Dynamite or Collision. I think it's great. Obviously, like I said, with Adam Page and MJF, it's a slow start. They're not turning over a new leaf right now. It's going to take them time to actually get fans invested and, want to, and be in tune to what AEW is doing. It's going to take time, bro. That's just the way it is. Do I think they can do it? Yeah. If they start building compelling storylines and get the fans invested, absolutely. It will be beneficial a lot for AEW. But they had to get back to what brought them to the dance. And some talents need to come back to AEW. The Young Bucks, they need to come back and get on the scene with AEW. I like how they take time off, and then hey, we're going to do a Japan excursion. And there's probably a reason why they did that, because clearly shit wasn't panning out for them in AEW, and they needed a break. Clearly. The same thing with Kenny Omega. He was more excited when he, had that matchup with Gabe Kidd than he did when he finally returned to have a match in AEW. And Kenny Omega looked like he didn't want to be there. So, Obviously there's things going on backstage in AEW that we don't know of, and that's pretty evident at this point. But obviously things need to change, man, and hopefully things change for the better in AEW. And I think, with the Adam Page and MJF feud that is going on, and they're starting to slowly build that up towards Revolution, it's a start. Is it going to be something that's going to turn this company around? No, but it could be a feud that could save AEW in the fact that it can get a lot more eyeballs on the product and get fans a little bit more invested into AEW going into Revolution. You know what I mean? And that's something that AEW desperately needs, because right now, man, it's just the ratings are still bad. Ticket sales are still bad. Attendance records are still low. They need something to bring a little more, lifeblood into AEW, because right now it's just, it's one of those things that, unfortunately, with them taking their foot off the gas pedal, it's showing. Ratings are in the toilet. Ticket sales are down. Merchandise sales are down. It's not a good look right now for AEW. So they need something, to bring a little bit more, limelight back into AEW, where fans can actually get invested into AEW's product. But with that being said, this is my review of AEW's Dynamite. I hope you guys are out there staying safe. Be careful, and remember, stay classic. Peace.